thank you for being willing to let me invade your office with the lights and the cameras. And I'd like you to introduce yourself, Mr. Brian Zinn, and tell me who you are and what you do.
Okay, well, I'm a litigation attorney, which means I'm in court a lot. I get involved with legal disputes, and it could involve real estate disputes, contract law, construction law. I do bankruptcy as well.
Okay.
Basically any type of dispute involving two parties where it looks like it's a major dispute and you're going to need an attorney.
Well, and everybody loves attorneys, so I'm certain that your Christmas card list is long and extensive.
Oh, yeah,
all
absolutely.
The people who Well, in mortgage, I'm a numbers person. I obviously, talk to people. I sold real estate for more than a decade, but I really like numbers.
Okay.
I tend to do better with numbers, and I have some numbers for you.
Okay.
Did you know there are over 1.3 million attorneys currently as of 2025 in the United States?
No, I did not know that.
And since as of 2025, we're about 325 million people. That means out of every 237, they'll find somebody like you.
Okay.
That being said, there is a bigger number that I really want to talk about. 1 of 6. There are 6 people in the United States who went on a hunt and found a treasure box. And I want you to kind of tell us, I know the story. I've listened to some podcasts. I know it involved you making sure that you drove all night to get home to make the holiday for your wife. But you tell us about this great journey that you went on.
Okay, well, I love puzzles and games and riddles and things like that. And that's also why I take on challenging cases. I like, the really challenging, interesting cases. But back in college, I went to the University of Pennsylvania, and in the Penn bookstore, I saw a really interesting book that had just come out called The Secret. It's not the book, The Secret, that most people think of.
Not the Oprah one that makes you go like, not
right.
that one. Okay.
Not that one.
Okay, the other one. Okay.
And in this book, there were these elaborate pictures and cryptic clues, and it was basically a puzzle where the author said he had buried 12 treasures across North America, and all the clues to finding these treasures were in the book.
Okay.
And so I bought it, I went back to my dorm with it, and I became obsessed with the book.
Now, how old were you when that occurred?
I was about 19 years old,
okay.
Something like that.
19, okay.
Yeah. So I would go to the Penn Library, go down. I thought one of them possibly led to a treasure in Philadelphia, so I would go during the day or at night down to Philly, downtown Philly, to look for clues. I got a few of my friends involved, but they weren't of much help or interest.
They would rather be out partying and meeting ladies.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And I never found anything during college, and there was no internet back then, so I didn't know if anyone else was looking for it.
Oh, yeah, you really wouldn't have any...
No.
Okay, yeah.
So, and I would go to the library to look at star charts and things and see if I could match up constellations in the book and stuff. So I packed up my stuff, went to law school up in Boston. Boston
in the fall.
I looked for clues up there as well, but not really that much.
Okay.
And then I didn't find anything up there. There still wasn't any internet back then. and I packed my stuff away and basically ended up moving back to New Jersey, where I'm from,
Okay.
New York and New Jersey. I ended up getting married. I ended up having kids. And one day I'm moving into a new house in New Jersey, unpacking boxes, and there's the book. And I unpack the box and I look at the book, and it brings back all these memories. And in the book it says, the author says that he's going to publish a second book with the solutions at some point.
Oh, okay.
So I was an attorney at this point. I ended up contacting the author, and I asked him, you know, where are the solutions?
Right.
And he said, as far as he's concerned, the hunt is still on.
Okay. Okay.
So at that point, the internet existed.
The Earth's crust was cooling, and,
Yes.
and things were progressing.
And we went online, and I found other people who were interested in this hunt, and nobody was really sure if any of them were found. And we kept going with clues and all that. And eventually, a group of us online figured out roughly where the cities were, and you know, just collaborating everything.
Okay.
And you could now hunt for things from your desk.
Yes, yes,
Because
okay.
Google Maps really wasn't a thing yet,
Okay.
but Google was. And so we did all that, and eventually we found out that the treasure that I thought was in Philadelphia from the picture and everything was actually a painting of a wall that was in Cleveland.
Okay.
And so when I saw that, I said, aha.
Now, when you say wall, there are lots of walls in lots of towns. What made this wall?
It looks like the Parthenon.
Okay.
And that's how we found it.
Okay.
And so I got a friend of mine. I convinced him to go with me, and we drove 9 hours to Cleveland from New Jersey, and we didn't know exactly where it was, so it was kind of like a leap of faith. It was Mother's Day weekend, so we had to get back. We only had one day, basically.
Okay.
So we left on a Saturday, and we got into Cleveland. And we left on a Friday, stayed over for like 3 hours of sleep, and then we woke up on Saturday and went to where the wall is. It was the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. It was the Greek Garden. And we ended up finding the wall. We started digging. There was a wedding setting up there, so we knew that
they appreciated you being there.
So we didn't think we'd be able to dig, and we drove all that way. But then we walked behind the wall and figured out that it must be, because of these additional clues, it must be buried behind the wall.
Okay.
So we were digging behind the wall the whole time that the wedding was going on. And people were like looking at us and wondering what was going on. But we were out of all the pictures, so.
Or at least you think you were.
Yes.
There may be one floating around.
So hours and hours and hours of digging. And we thought it would be easy. And we eventually found it. We found the treasure. And it was like a ceramic box with a key in it.
Okay.
And if you give the key to the author, he gives you a jewel.
Okay.
And so it's not like a rich thing, or, you know, it's just like a puzzle that you're solving the puzzle.
It's bragging rights. You're one of 6.
So we contacted the author. He couldn't believe it. You know, it had been 22 years since the book came out. We later found out that some kids in Chicago had found a treasure 6 months after the book came out. And because there was no internet back then, there's really no way to know that.
Okay.
Not somebody from New Jersey or anyone. And we ended up eventually going on a TV show called Expedition Unknown. This was years later. And now there are like 40 or 50,000 people on Facebook still looking for the remaining treasures. And Expedition Unknown, my friend and I have been on twice. They've featured this 3 different times.
Okay.
So I'm like a mini celebrity.
Yeah.
And that was a very long explanation for something that.
No, honestly, like I said, you're one of 6, so this is not a case of we've already heard this story. We've not. Now you said that you were shoveling. Do 2 kids show up with shovels and people are asking questions, or I mean, how deep was this box underground?
It was only like 1.5 feet deep.
Okay.
But it was like. The clues led us to one side there was like a garden behind the wall, and it led us to one side of the garden. And this had tree roots and stuff in it, and I didn't let my friend dig at all. I dug the whole time.
Why is that?
Because I wanted to find the treasure.
Yeah, okay.
So he was just cracking jokes all day for 5 hours. But anyway, so I was digging on the wrong side of the garden the whole time. And we were about to go home because I figured it wasn't there. I was very frustrated.
You like sleeping indoors, and Mother's Day was the next day.
Right.
Exactly, okay.
So we were about to go home, and my friend takes a probe that we had brought with us, and he probes on the other side of the garden just for kicks, and he finds something. So I had been digging for 5 hours. He finds it in 5 seconds, and it was hysterical.
Now, from the time you
and we got permission from the Greek Hellenic Society that maintains the gardens and everything to actually dig there before we went.
And they probably had no idea at all that it was there.
Right, they didn't know.
So they were probably...
Right, and they also forgot to tell us about the wedding. So luckily it was behind the wall.
Well, now, from the time you get the book, you go to college, you put it away, you find the book again. How much time had passed between the time you found the book again and you found the treasure?
Probably about 10 years.
Okay, so that's a lot of billable hours.
13 years.
A lot of billable hours.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And how did you explain to your wife, when you told her about this, what was her reaction?
When we found it?
No, when you told her, honey, I'm leaving,
Oh, that was not an easy conversation.
Okay.
I had to convince her too.
Okay.
But she let me go.
Well, I'm sure that you have some good litigating skills.
Right.
So you definitely could have done that.
Right.
Okay. Well, as far as, that was your fun side. Now you're 9 to 5, 8 to 6, however many days, you work in the work week. On the onset of it, contracts don't seem very exciting.
Right.
However, it's the lengths to which people will go to not have to accept responsibility for something that was in that contract.
Mm-hmm.
What do you find is the most common reason why people seek you? Was it a case of somebody didn't know they made a mistake, or we all knew, we just didn't want to accept responsibility?
No, it's usually, there are different things for different cases,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the common things is if something's not clear in a contract, like either a blank wasn't filled in correctly, mm-hmm. or there are words like that just make it very ambiguous. Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, the smallest things can create a huge legal issue.
Okay.
I had one case where the seller of the property was selling his property. It was an old house that was on the property, and he had tons of sculptures and other things in it, and the buyer wasn't really interested in the house or the sculptures or anything. He was going to knock down the house and just buy it for the land.
Okay.
So the seller wanted the ability to get all of his stuff out.
Okay.
If he was going to sell it. And of course, he didn't have an attorney representing him at the time. It's a very important thing to him. And that's also when you get an attorney is, if something is important to you or valuable to you, you should really have an attorney review a contract first. So this guy, he put in there that he would be given time to get his things out after the closing without specifying how much time. And so 3 weeks go by, the buyer is like putting a lot of pressure on him, saying, I've given you enough time now. And the guy had a lot of problems with getting stuff out because of the movers. These things were big, and there was just a lot of problems. And the buyer was going to knock down the house and all the stuff in it. And the guy had to go to court. The seller had to go to court to try and get an injunction. And the judge said, no, you've been given enough time. You should have had a more definitive, if you wanted 2 months to get the stuff out.
You should have said that.
Right.
Yeah, because time and how much I said only works for moms. 5 minutes can be 30 seconds or 2 weeks, but when it comes to the law, you need to specify.
Sure, that's
okay.
And there's so many examples of that, but yeah, that's that type of thing. And so as a realtor, if you're representing someone, you want to make sure that everything is spelled out in that contract. Contingency clauses, time to do things. Time is of the essence. That's what the contract says. And it means that, unless you have certain things that give you more time to do things, you're not going to get them.
No. Now, a question that I had about that is realtors do not think that sellers are best represented when they try and sell their home by themselves. They always say, you need to hire a professional. You need to hire them. Do you get just as much pushback that people don't want to hire an attorney because they're already spending so much money on the house, or they figure that, well, the lawyer or the realtor can take care of it? What happens between...
Yeah, I mean, I used to practice in New Jersey, and I can tell you that almost everyone in New Jersey, when they buy or sell a house, they hire a lawyer to represent them. And when I came down here to Florida, and I found out that basically almost nobody has an attorney.
It's the Wild West out here.
Right.
Yeah.
I was shocked, absolutely shocked. And it turns out that there's a lot more real estate litigation here in Florida because of that.
Right.
Because, if you don't get an attorney to plug all the holes, or even get a realtor to plug all the holes, like the guy who wanted more time, if he had a realtor, the realtor probably would have made sure that it said in there that he gets 2 months or however long it is.
And honestly, too, I bet the realtor would also have kept in contact with them. Hey, you're on a deadline here.
Oh, yeah,
you
absolutely.
have X amount of time, and if you don't perform, they could probably, call up a mover and say, I need help.
Right. Or if turns out the guy maybe needs more time than he anticipated, a realtor could possibly help with having the two parties sign an addendum, extending the time. You can't just go by verbal side agreements, which was what a lot of people do. And that's also why you sometimes will end up having to hire an attorney, because it's a he said, she said situation where, hey, I agreed to this or whatever. But a lot of people don't realize that an addendum, if you're going to change your agreement with an amendment or an addendum, it has to be in writing and it has to be signed by everybody. And a lot of people don't think that. They think, oh, they could just do it on a handshake. They'll trust the other party. And that is a bad way to think about things.
Yeah.
So,
it absolutely is. Well, I knew a situation where a gal was a paralegal, and she was moving out of state to Florida, and she found out that they sell foreclosures on the courthouse steps. And so
Right.
she went ahead and went down and got a fantastic deal on a property.
Okay.
And here again, she's a paralegal. She didn't call an attorney. She didn't call a title company. She said she didn't want to spend, the $1,000 or so in order to make sure that it was taken care of because she was a paralegal. Well, the way I came across her is, unfortunately, she had just this nagging suspicion. So she goes online and finds out that although the HOA foreclosed on the property, there was a VA loan on the property also.
Mm-hmm.
And so although she did save, $1,200 or so, she ended up, it cost her more than $100,000 because she had to pay that off. And it's just one of those times where, yes, you may think that not hiring an attorney is going to save you.
Mm-hmm.
But that great unknown is so vast and so huge that it's just foolish.
Yeah. I've had a few clients like that who came in and had the exact same situation. Like, it's a second mortgage that was foreclosing,
Mm-hmm.
and so the property gets sold at a foreclosure sale. What they don't know, it's being sold subject to the first mortgage, and there's no record of that anywhere. You'd have to do the research yourself or get a title company to do it.
Right.
Because nobody knows how to research that themselves. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's always important to get professionals.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to knock on wood here because last season we didn't have any hurricanes, and it was
Right.
fantastic. But tell me, when a hurricane occurs here, what types of cases do you see coming in? How quickly between the time the hurricane happens are people calling you because there's problems?
Well, it depends on a lot of things. Like, my firm also does hurricane insurance claim litigation. So it often happens that somebody's house gets damaged, they make an insurance claim, the insurance company sends an inspector and then only offers a little bit to fix their home. And some people will get a public adjuster to help them with that, but the problem with that is that a public adjuster can't sue the insurance company.
Okay.
So they don't have as much leverage as a law firm. So if the person, instead of hiring a public adjuster, if they came to a law firm, we could possibly sue the insurance company, and we have done that.
Okay.
There are things that you do before that, sort of ways to warn the insurance company that, hey, you better increase your offer or we're going to sue you, because you're basically trying to settle the claim in bad faith.
Right.
And unfortunately, that happens a lot, especially after hurricanes. And so that's one thing that you could do, is call an attorney to help you with those claims.
Okay.
Then later on, after that, you get contractors to come and fix your property. And unfortunately, there are a lot of bad contractors in Florida.
Nuh-uh.
Someone said recently at a meeting, and I'm just stealing this from him, that we have sunny weather and shady characters.
I agree on that. Absolutely.
So unfortunately, people get taken all the time with contractors where maybe they pay a lot of money up front, or they sign this quick contract without having an attorney review it first. And there are so many ways that people have gotten cheated by these contractors. And that's where we come in.
You know, I know that when we have, when Hurricane, what was that last one that was so bad?
Ian?
And yeah, honestly, points of
Right.
that life I just kind of have like blocked out. You don't have
Right.
your flashbacks, but you have storm chasers that come down here to fix
Oh
stuff.
yeah, they come from out of state. They might be unlicensed because Florida has these rules about you can't just come over from Louisiana or Texas and start working on properties. You have to get a license. So
what happens if the homeowner trusted that person and they weren't licensed and they came into town and they do a job and then 6 months later we realize, oopsie-daisies, and that person is now off some other state? Do you have to go to that state where they reside? Do you have to sue them here and then try and get that person to come down? How does that work?
well, we can usually sue them here in Florida.
Okay.
But if we get a judgment here in Florida, we have to then docket that judgment in that state to go after any assets that the person has or the company has.
Okay.
But it depends on what the contract says. The contract that the person signed might say, and this happened on one of my cases, it might say that any disputes have to be filed in Louisiana.
Well, of course.
So the guy had to file a lawsuit in Louisiana for it. And we're not licensed in Louisiana to file lawsuits, so we had to find a Louisiana attorney for the guy.